Okay, so this is a kind of response video to Troy Leavitt and his recent video, because the thing about YouTube is, I remember when people used to make videos and response videos and it'd be a conversation. Nowadays it's just a diatribe, you know. They've got a lot of production behind them, whether it's, you know, that they put in the work for hours themselves, or like they get a team to do it, like Philip DeFranco. They've got hours of production and they just kind of lambast you, sort of like what I'm doing now, with their own ego and their own opinion, and then it's decided as de facto truth. So that's rubbish anyway. But since I'm one of these kinds of people who still believe that there's a conversation going on, I'm gonna still kind of have a conversation going. So he came up with this idea that if there was a calculator and someone said, oh well, I put in this value and the answer is 42, and he's trying to use this kind of 42 is the meaning of life. 42 is the meaning of life in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So he said, you know, and he says, well, how did you get the answer? And he says, well, I don't think it should be 42, I think it should be 50. And then he uses the wage gap as a basis of logic for backing up his argument that a person who is saying that their scientific calculator is giving them the wrong answer is the person who's wrong. Okay, that's fantastic. So I thought, in the spirit of the fact that I do shit, I would do some maths. So I'm going to do some maths right here, okay? Right next to iDubbbz. I don't know if you can see it, but here. No, you can't see it. I can't do the maths then, can I? Okay. So what if you've got a calculator? I've got two scientific calculators. I can't be bothered to get them right now. What if you've got a calculator and you plug in the values? He says that the person who is plugging in the values says, you know, for social justice, oh, well, the answer's 42, but I feel like it should be 50, and I'm going to change the values until it reaches 50. Fair enough. What if, and this happens a lot in actual maths, okay, especially if you just miss a root or something like that, you get the wrong answer. So what if you have 3 calculators? Okay, because I would never hedge my bet on one calculator, because that's just not how I would do something. Anybody who's a reasonable centrist on any level will never take just one answer as de facto truth. They go and retest it. And this is the thing about scientific method, that a lot of these people who are laymen but pretending to not be laymen, like, don't understand. And the thing is, you don't have to be super intelligent to understand scientific method. Scientific method just means you go away, you test, you get a value. Then, for example, in chemistry, the maths is a little bit more complicated, because the value, even though you might be able to balance an equation very simply, if you plug in the wrong value, you'll get the wrong answer. And that's as simple as that. So here's the thing, when you're sitting in the chemistry lab and you come up with the wrong answer and you go, no, that's wrong, but your calculator's telling you it's right, but you know it's wrong because you've done this a few times and the value that it's coming out with is wrong, and you just want to know why it's wrong. That's all. Because an inquisitive mind doesn't care about, an inquisitive mind obviously cares, but when it comes to truth, when it comes to critical analysis, a true centrist, a true actual centrist who rigorously applies scientific method is going to go away and repeat the experiment again and again and again to make sure that the values that they're doing come up 1, 2, 3. Okay? That's how it works. That's how scientific method works. Now, he's trying to use like a logical fallacy here, where he's saying, oh well, the person's not telling me about the inputs that I'm plugging in. The answer's 42, but I feel like it should be 50. Again, this is all kind of it's fuzzy logic. It's bad logic. It's fallacy, because it's not true. So say you put into a calculator 3 times 7 is 42. Great. Then you put into another calculator 3 times 7 is 42. Great. And then you put into another calculator 3 times 7 and it comes up with 50. And you sort of go, okay. That calculator is obviously going to be broken. Or the person or the inputs that are going into the calculator have been put in wrong. Okay. With calculations as simple as that, there's room for very little error. 3 times 7 is 42. Great. We know that. But when you're working with like a complex construct like society, it isn't really that simple. In fact, it's far from simple. Like, it's not one thing, it's several things. So, for example, in advanced chemistry, you'll have to balance an equation with, X amount of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and you're going to have to balance the equation to make sure that you get the actual, chemical mass. It's been so fucking long since I've done chemistry in my head, and I can't do it, not anymore anyway. So yeah. You're sitting at home on your own, you're doing an equation, you'd get it wrong. Who the fuck do you ask? So then you're asking someone that you supposedly knows the truth, okay? But here's the thing, right? You've got the cheat sheet, and you know the answer's 50, and they're telling you it's 42, and you're like, no, it's not 42, it's 50. Like, no, it's 42, you're wrong. No, it's not. I'm not wrong. You're wrong. Like, no. You're just upset about the wage gap, dude, or something like that. It's like, no, I'm trying to do something, right? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I've got nothing to really care about that. Do you see what I mean? Because me being wrong in a situation of scientific like method, it means that I've done something wrong. And when you're applying something like a logical base to like a complex system that is vastly more complicated than just simply binary system, you'll get the wrong answer all the time. So you have to, anybody who's done any kind of maths and algebra knows. But here's the thing, here's the thing. When people just feel like they're going mad, they're going to take the next logical step. They're going to take the next kind of, oh, he's making sense. Oh, he makes sense. Oh, I'm going to jump onto board to his thinking, because his thinking at least makes me feel safe. Which is a completely wrong attitude to take. It's one of the reasons why the system is broken so badly in the first place, is because if, for example, you do put in those values and you come up with the 42 and that's it, and the answer is 42, then whether or not you like it is irrelevant, because if you're applying a scientific method, then that's fine. what we know is that statistics and things like that can be altered, and you know, they're open for interpretation a lot of the time. So for example, the wage gap, how they came up with the wage gap was by taking a median of all of the hours worked, for example. How instead of intellectualizing the wage gap, you just simply just say, look, okay, when you're going for a job, I don't even have a fucking piece of paper. Like, when you're going for a job, yeah, there's a starting salary, okay? So in the UK, this is how it works in the UK. You do a job, say you work at McDonald's, it's £7.50 an hour. £7.50 for every hour you work, regardless of whether or not you're a boy or a girl. So if you work 10 hours and your colleague works 8 hours, your colleague's going to earn less money, aren't they? They're not going to earn the same amount of money. Now, I used to work for a company called TNT, doing post, and how they would calculate my wage would be to give me a bonus if I finished on time. So it actually worked out that the men in the actual office were a lot better at doing that job than I was. I mean, I'm physically quite unhealthy. I've got, like, you know, this nerve injury and stuff like that, and I've you know, got a bad back from a lot of injuries that I've had in my life. I still woke up every morning at 6 o'clock, and I rode my fucking arse off until 2 o'clock every day at whatever they were charging, £8 or something like that an hour. And at the end of the month, I would get about 500 quid. The rest of the guys there were earning about £1,000 per shift, because they were putting in so much more work. They were finishing their shifts quicker. TNT were giving them bonuses for finishing quicker. They were like doing more rounds, so you'd get, like, if you did 1 round, you'd get this much money. If you did 2 rounds, you get this much money. If you did 3 rounds, you get this much money. So some of the bigger guys, they were doing 3 rounds, and obviously practice makes perfect. So they were doing their first round, coming back, doing the second round, coming back, picking up a third, maybe even a 4th round, and doing that, and coming back before I'd even finished 2 rounds. So this kind of, that is how a fair system works, whereby the people who work harder were getting like 1,000, sometimes 1,500 quid a month. I was getting about 400-500 quid a month. So I was working fucking just as hard. I was still cycling 35 miles a day with 16 kilogram bags on my back. I was earning still kind of like half as much as the guys, because they were just like stronger. They were just like better at being able to do that kind of work, and they were more practiced, and they had their own they had their own routes. And because I was new, I didn't have my own specific route. They had their own practiced routes as well. So that's one of these really complicated mathematical algorithms that works out for TNT, because mathematically and statistically it works out that, hey, if this guy can finish 4 rounds within 4 hours, and that's like an hour a round or something like that, hey, he's going to get a bonus as well on top of that. But she's like only earning what? She's doing it 7 till like finishing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she's doing 2 rounds, and it's taking her a lot longer. So I was working more hours for less pay. Do you see how that works? And that was considered a fair system. So that's not a fair system. That's a competitive system, and it's a system that kind of benefits the idea that the strong survive and the weak die. But that's that kind of work, you see, because postal work is quite a difficult job. What they're saying in the wage gap is, they're saying that you do the same job and you do the same amount of time and you do the same amount of work, but you get paid less. And that's not actually true. So if you work at McDonald's, for example, like I say, you know, you go like £7.50 an hour, okay, and you do an 8-hour shift at £7.50 an hour, you get your money. And if someone else does exactly the same shift as you, they'll get exactly the same money. That's how it works. So if you're in a system that favours this kind of survival of the fittest type motif, people who are going to be able to work harder, for example, you know, there's no point in putting someone who, you know, I pushed myself harder than I've ever pushed myself in that job because I needed the money, obviously. You know, cycling in the wet and the rain and the cold, and sometimes they wouldn't even give me personal protection, which is against the law technically, but they still got away with it. And the thanks I got was a minimal paycheck. And that's why I quit that job, because I was working my arse off every morning, waking up at 6 o'clock, working till 2 o'clock, coming home at the end of the month, you know, cycling 35 miles every day, 16 kilogram bags on my fucking back, coming back home at the end of a month and then having like £500 in my account, and everyone else around me kind of like earning £1,000 and £1,500, and it was like, I can't live on £500 a month. Like, it's not viable for me to do that. So I'm not going to work for your company. But they reward people who can achieve at their level. Do you see what I mean? So there's no point in putting someone who can compete at an Olympic level against someone who can barely run, you know, for the bus. Do you see what I mean? You know, Usain Bolt, he can run 100 meters in, you know, 9 seconds. You can't run for a bus. But let's put you in a competition together, because that's fair. That's a fair market, right? And the strongest is obviously going to survive, and the weak is going to die. Okay, survival of the fittest doesn't always mean survival of the best. And the thing about egalitarianism, the thing about a broken system is that if you're trying to base like logical values, like simple values, like, oh, the answer is 42, or how did you come up with that answer? Oh, it doesn't matter how I came up with the answer. It does matter. He made this point. Of course it matters. But here's the thing. If you're using this broken system to justify survival of the fittest, it doesn't necessarily equate to being the best either. So, for example, what we got is we get a lot of people who are in positions of power who are not necessarily the right people for the job, but they've outperformed their peers and have become, you know, the supposed best at what they do. So I like to always kind of survival of the fittest means if you just leave your garden, you leave it untended, it's just going to grow weeds and brambles and that's it. It's not going to grow anything else. It might grow a few trees, it might grow a few wildflowers, and that's about it. If you want a real garden to have any real quality, you're going to have to work at actually making sure that the things that survive the best, which are weeds and brambles and other shit like that, yeah, like fucking moles and, you know, other things, squirrels and things like this, yeah, they survive the best, yeah, they're the survivors, they're the ones that like will take over and completely dominate wildland until it just all sort of basically just looks exactly the same. If you want wildland, that's great, wildland. But if you want a garden, if you want an actual garden, then you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to stop the people who are surviving the best at the game. Yeah, the ones who know how to play the game the best, the ones who survive the best, they're not necessarily the ones you want in your garden. They're the ones that you're trying to keep away. They're the ones you're going, right, okay, I've got a squirrel problem. I'm going to catch the squirrels. I'm going to take them somewhere else. I'm going to put them in another part of that forest or whatever. And this section of the garden is where I'm going to grow orchids and lilies and golden petunias and apple trees and banana trees and whatever you want. And the thing is, if you don't tend to that garden, the survival of the fittest principle will be eventually all of those weeds and those brambles are going to just destroy all of the plants that you grew. So, you know, if you want to grow if you talk to any orchid enthusiast, yeah, someone who actually grows orchids. I grew a blue orchid once and it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, of tending to this flower until it bloomed into this beautiful blue orchid, and it was completely unique to me. It was completely my orchid. You know, I chose the strain, I chose the because it was a biology project, you know. And they made the seeds in the factory and whatever, you know, they you know, had obviously done all of their gene splicing and stuff like that, and hybridization of this particular type of orchid, and it was completely unique to me. And then you grow it and you tend it and then it blooms and then it flowers. Unfortunately it died. You know, you can't, again, orchids do not survive in the wild. I mean, they do in certain climates, and that's the point. They only survive in this really strange ecological bubble of particular environmental circumstances. And if you don't live in that particular part of the world and you live in Iceland but you still really want to grow orchids, you're going to have to think about what it is to mean to grow an orchid in a system that is designed specifically to kind of kill anything off that isn't that. So, you know, a flower in the kind of in that sort of sense is what I'm talking about. So yeah, in this kind of capitalist sort of system and society, this is what we're talking about. It's geared towards people who know how to play their level of the game, but it doesn't necessarily take into account everything else. And that's really all it is. And with the scientific calculator problem and the mathematical problem, again, you know, because he used this really stupid, like, oh well, I don't need to tell you the values of this 42 to make my argument for the wage gap and that it doesn't exist. we know that the wage gap doesn't exist. That's the thing is, that's one of the cheekiest bits that he could have possibly, put in there, because essentially what he did was use a kind of a debating talking point that's been proven to be wrong over and over again, and that people of the proponents that this 77 to every dollar have been proven wrong over and over again, and then used the kind of the argument that we've won the argument on wage gap. Now I'm going to use the argument that we won on wage gap to kind of prove everything else by using my flawed model about a calculator that doesn't really work, or maybe it's the person that doesn't really work, and then using this kind of stupid Hitchhiker's Guide philosophy to sort of back it up. And trolling might be an art, right? But the thing is, it's also really stupid when it comes to stupid. Trolling is stupid because most of the time, in fact all of the time, what you're doing is fucking retarded, and you're doing it on purpose to kind of upset, to sort of trigger up other people who are not necessarily on the know of what's going on, and it's what I don't like. So yeah, that's kind of why I am making this video. It's a bit rambly, because again, I suppose I would rather have a conversation with someone and actually communicate with them than not. And unfortunately, if the other person on the other side of the screen isn't actually communicating and is just sort of trolling, then there's nothing else you can do, is there? So yeah, how I relate this to my trans kind of situation. Here's the thing. I went to university, I studied bioscience, I studied biomedicine. I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to go into medicine when I was very young. And things kind of set me back a lot over my life. My mental health issues, my family life, my work life. It's difficult to do that. And a lot of the women in my class were mothers working 2 jobs and all of this shit, and I myself was going to school, kind of college, whatever, university, whatever you want to call it, doing the work, coming home, waking up, working for this company, working for that company, doing whatever I can to make my money, trying to save up my money, trying to pay off my credit cards, just surviving, just getting by, just getting by. That's all I was doing, is just barely getting by before what I call the Calamity Ganon. The Calamity Ganon. The great calamity of the Wind Waker. Yeah, my calamity anyway, my great calamity. And obviously you hope that it's never going to be you that it happens to, but then it does. And I remember when it happened to me, I remember thinking to myself, I remember talking to my doctor and telling him what had happened, and it just kind of felt like I was talking to a brick wall. I still feel like I'm talking to a brick wall. I still feel with all of the hashtag me too, me too, me too, me too, and I suppose this is one of the things is when I was growing up, there's a story called Peter Cried Wolf, and it was all about a kid who growing up cried wolf so many times that when a wolf finally did show up, nobody believed him and he got eaten alive. And I feel like that. However, I never cried wolf in my life. That's the thing. I've never ever cried rape, ever. I've never just gone, I've been raped for no reason, just for attention, ever. When it happened to me, I thought coming out and telling people what had happened to me was kind of gonna help me deal with what was going on, and instead I've just kind of been, ignored. And I think it's not just that, it's not just how people react to you, but yeah, I mean, to say my voice has been silenced is an understatement. Like, I doubt anybody's going to reach 30 minutes into this video or listen to the video. And that's silencing someone's story. So that's my story. And I don't know how else to say it either. And it's not like I wanted special treatment or anything. I just wanted to be heard. And then I wasn't. And kind of, it's one of those things that happens in life. You have to deal with it, because there's no other option. So my life being ruined is whatever it is, and that's it. I wanted to do the equation on the wall because I wrote it earlier actually, and I wonder if you could actually see it, but it's there, you see. So you got 2 plus 2 equals fork. Okay, fork plus spoon, that equals like a spork, but obviously there is no spoon, remember, because there is no spoon, so you've got to divide that by S, and that makes pork. Do you see? And that means they stole our bacon. They stole our bacon. So, if your bacon's ever been stolen, just remember something. Fuck those people. Fuck those people who stole your pork. Fuck those people who stole pork off of anybody. They're stealing our bacon. Anyway. That's my video. I want to say that people like, Troy Leavitt, they make these really, really well produced videos, and ultimately, they like to create these kind of logical fallacies that are funny for them, because what they like essentially is to see other people suffering mentally. When you give someone a problem they can't solve, that is the kind of mental torture that people put themselves through, put each other through. It's like basically just saying, oh well, you're in a prison cell, you've been locked in a prison cell, and blah blah blah, and then they throw away the key and you're locked inside, and the thing is, if you're not fucking Harry Houdini, how are you going to get out? And even then, yeah, it's very much along the lines of, look, someone has created this kind of system specifically to sort of like fuck with you on purpose. Yeah, it's not a system that's designed in your favour. And if that system has not been designed in your favour at all, then you're fucked. And if the system is working against you, you're fucked. So there's a kind of loophole in that. If you are watching this video, you've kind of found that loophole, and you've kind of like realised this. You've kind of like gotten to the point where you're actually awake to the point that you're not listening to all of this bullshit. Now listen, I subscribe to these channels specifically because I want you, the viewer, to listen to the kind of shit that is what has happened to YouTube, okay? Remember, YouTube used to be a place where we could share our experiences as a global society, and much like 4chan, it was like, oh yeah, we can share our experiences. Hey, look, I can do this thing, yeah, and it's incredible. Look, I can throw a fucking 50-yard shot right into a fucking dustbin from a building. How cool is that? And everyone's like, fuck me, that's amazing. I didn't even know that was possible, but you did it. That's incredible, dude. Perfect. But here's the thing. My subscriptions are basically shit like, follow your fucking spiritual path, or did you know that Donald Trump is a fucking Hitler? Or, hey, Donald Trump isn't Hitler. Did you know that the left, it's all the left's fault? It's all the left's fault. The thing is, it's just shit. It's just shit. Oh, and then spattered in with fucking Marvel Cinematic Universe and Star Wars. So it's like shit, more shit, Star Wars, more shit, Marvel, more shit, more shit, more shit. It's like, after a while, it just becomes one of these points where you're just like, oh, fuck's sake. Whatever. So, everything is sexualized because everything is sex. Everything about life is to do with sex. I mean, procreation is basically the foundation of all life on the planet. However it evolves, as a trans person, having gone through biology, science to a degree level, like, I wrote papers on stem cell research, gene therapy, organ transplants. I wanted, my main goal when I was doing this was I at one point even started researching synthetic skin, because again, the reason why I wanted to go into medicine was because I wanted to help people. Synthetic skin was, for me as well, a very kind of important point in my life, because I never had that that perfect skin that you're supposed to have as a girl, and I just constantly just wanted to have this perfect perfect skin, because I hated having acne scars, and I hated having all of this shit wrong with me. But more than anything, I hated being told that I just had to accept that was how the hand of life had dealt me a fucking a thing, yeah? And I had to accept it. That's what I had been dealt with, that's what I had to accept. And I was like, absolutely fucking not. No. Because there are people out there who have been victims of acid attacks or burn victims. They deserve better. And it turned out I was so fucking late to the party, because this guy had invented this synthetic skin about 30 odd years ago. He got the Nobel Prize for it. One of the absolutely most underrated people in the scientific community. And he created this synthetic skin. And I wish I could find the video now. I think it's on my I think it's on my Facebook. Might be under tech, actually. It's probably under tech, because it's technology. So yeah, I think the Wayne Bobbitt thing, when the guy's the wife cut his dick off, and I was like, fucking hell, that's horrible. Like, that's a guy who's just like lying in bed, they've had an argument, she's gotten angry and she's cut his dick off, and they've reattached it, and I thought, that's amazing. How did they do that? Like, oh wow, I want to be involved in that somehow. That's why I went to university, and I started looking into organ development, organ growing, stem cells, things like this, because I mean recently they just developed the technology to grow. I'll put a link in the description actually, if I can find the video, of where this guy they're growing, like, so for trans guys, for example, they kind of grew a penis on the back of like a basis of a pig's stem cells. A vaginal implant would be so much easier. So the technology is just not there for me. The thing is, here's the thing. Like, we have the technology to do everything. Having been put into what I've been put into, and just kind of being told, oh well, you know, accept it, you know, you're not going to get any special treatment or anything, not that you deserve it, like, not that I deserve it, I mean, like, everybody should deserve good medical treatment, but in America, I mean, the problem is every system, if it's broken, in the UK we have a better system, but even then it's failing. The problem is that people don't care about people who are not capable of being able to survive in a broken system, because we do live in a broken system. We can't fix it either. It's broken. It can't be repaired. And like, if you break it more and more and more, eventually you'll just grind it down into dust, and there'll be nothing left. And that's it. I suppose from there we could start again. I suppose from there, once it's all been ground down back to sand, we could reconstitute the sand and create a new system. But right now the system is broken. It's so fucked and so flawed that it can't be repaired. Especially when, if someone gains power, they're very unwilling to give up that power, especially if it benefits them. And someone who's sitting on the top of a pyramid isn't necessarily going to be like, why should I give up my power so that someone else on the bottom of the pyramid can have power? They don't care, you know? So you can belabor the point all you want. I can belabor the point all I want. But a broken system is broken. Just because it comes up with the value that you want, and this is his point, this is his major point. Just because the calculator comes up with the value that you want doesn't mean that it's right, especially if the values that are being plugged into the calculator have not been put in correctly. And the thing is, a calculator is only a machine that's used specifically to help aid larger equations that kind of work outside of the box. The box itself. You see, the thing is, this is the thing. At least if you have a working calculator, you've got a chance at being able to fix stuff. But if you don't have a working calculator, you're fucked. Because there's no way that you're going to be able to calculate any shit at all. Nothing. Like, forget fucking trying to calculate quantum fucking variables and balance chemical equations. Because I'm telling you what, and Common Core in America is a joke. It's a fucking joke. But let's just put it this phase, yeah? Even if you were pretty good at maths, the concept that they're being super geniuses around that can calculate roots and stuff like that just off the top of their head is so fucking off the charts rare that it can't be considered normal. Yeah, it's a diverse part of the human brain that kind of works and fires off, but it's not normal. So fuck being able to balance equations, because that one guy, he's not just going to sit there in his room kind of going calculating equations all day, is he? Well, I mean, he might, you know. But can you imagine, like, queues and queues and queues and queues and queues of thousands and thousands of scientists going up to this one guy who can happen to, like, calculate, like, everything like this? You know, because he's a super savant kind of dude. Like, oh yeah, I need to calculate the mass of gravity so I can, shutter the spaceship around the Earth. Can you do that for me? And he's like, yeah, I'll do that for you right here. Next. So we're talking like a human calculator, yeah? And that's bollocks. So you need a genuine fucking machine that works. Yeah, to do the fucking job that it needs to. And if the fucking machine is broken, if the fucking system is broken, what you're asking people to do is the work for the machine that needs to do the work. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I've got a phone somewhere, but my calculator. The thing is like, there was a point during my human evolution where I was like, yeah, I mean, there are some guys out there who can, like, calculate pi to a infinite place or whatever, I don't know, and there's other people out there who can calculate stuff, and it's like, but I struggle with what the square root of, like, 27 is or something like that, right? Like, I think I can, at a push, sort of kind of take an educated guess, and sort of like the square root of 27 would be like square root. So you're supposed to, like, divided by 3, right? Nine or something. So, like, if the square root, right? So, like, I struggle with, like, basic maths. And I think most people who have an average IQ, anywhere in the ranges from like 90 to like 120 is like average IQ, yeah, are gonna be able to sort of kind of go, yeah, I can kind of do that. But, like, if you put down, like, when I sat in front of my class and I was just like, I'm not going to be able to calculate all of that. It's like, don't worry, you've got a calculator. Like, thank fuck for that. Like, shit, man. Because otherwise, it doesn't matter how much long division you do, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to fucking do the fucking maths. So you're not going to be able to calculate the molar mass of fucking, mercury. You're not going to be able to do it. So, say goodbye to your nuclear program if you can't fucking do that. If you can't calculate, I mean, like, enriching uranium is one of the most difficult things in the world to do. It takes, like, a lot of fucking scientists, a lot of time. It's a difficult process to actually enrich uranium. But not only that, you've got to have the fucking values plugged in properly, or you're going to just, like, fucking, that shit that comes out the other side is going to be wrong. And then it's going to just blow up in your face. And you don't want this shit blowing up in your face. Okay? What you want is, it to not blow up in your face. And if you've got fucking basic fucking monkeys tapping at fucking, oh, I reckon it's gonna work this time. No. You need a calculator that you know is gonna work. Right? So here's the thing. His basis was that because Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy arbitrarily decided that 42 was an answer, he was going to use this thing as an answer, right? However, that's bollocks, because it may as well have just been 69, and that would have been a funnier video. You see what I mean? 69, that would have been a funny video. But he had to go the 42 route, because he was like a little bit smart, isn't he? He's a troll, and trolling's an ant, right? But the thing is, if he'd have actually fucking done it funny and gone like, oh, well, I plugged in the value and I think it should be 69, that's funny. That's funny. Like, oh, the calculator's coming up with an answer and it's 42. What do you think the answer should be? 69, obviously. Fucking... That's a funny video. See, that's a funny fucking... That's funny. But his video is just kind of like, I got you. Intellectually, I got you. It's 42. The answer is 42 because of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I bet only intellectuals will know that one. I don't know, I'm projecting that. But he's definitely sitting behind his computer kind of going, look at all my clicks and views and AdSense money and stuff like that. So he knows what he's doing. Oh, for fuck's sake. He knows what he's doing. And if you've been watching my nipple throughout this video, then thank you. Because that means that you've been paying attention. And that means you get a one more. Whoop, like that. Whoop. No. I'm not doing it again. I'm gonna get this video. This video will be demonetized. All of my views, all of my 2 viewers are gonna be demonetized. Anyway, if you've been watching this video, check out his videos. David. Wait, what's his name? I don't even remember his name. Troy Leavitt. Check out Troy Leavitt. Oh man, check out Ben Heck actually. You know, because the thing is, here's the thing: if you genuinely are a centrist, right, you've got to keep your eyes, you've got to keep both ears on both sides of the fucking, you know, fence. You know, you kind of. Someone says, oh, you know, Islam is bad. You know, so it's like, Islam is not bad, or that's a bad example. Like, but you know, you've always got to have 2 people having a conversation, right? And like, oh, for fuck's sake, God, stop doing that. Conversation. So, but you know. So, I'm not just going to take what I perceive to be the value of what I perceive to be the value. I'm going to go away and I'm going to test it again and again and again and again and again. And I know that it's right if I get the same answer in a certain amount of times. Do you see? So, if I get the answer a certain amount of times, then I'm going to, I'm going to accept that the answer is what it is. Unfortunately, as hard as it is to accept, the system is broken. Because it came up with the wrong answer. It came up with the answer 42, and obviously the answer is 69, not 42. There's not, I mean, I'm sure there is a sexual position called 42, so there's like 4, 2, yeah, so there's like a blowjob, right? 42 is a blowjob, right? So maybe that is the right answer. Maybe 42 is the right answer. Maybe a blowjob is the right answer. But maybe 69 is the right answer. I think 69 is the better answer, to be honest, than 42. So, I think 50 is like fisting, isn't it? 50. No, I don't know. It's like that. And then he's got it like that. And then that's the 5, innit? And then that's the 0. So yeah. Okay. You gotten so many nipples today, lucky viewers. Hello, if you're watching out there. I don't care if you think what I think. Do you think I know? Look, to be fair, you gotta have at least an IQ of over 200 to understand Rick and Morty. And if you don't, then you're just a pickle. You're just a pickle. Okay? Yeah. Oh, maybe I should draw Pickle Rick. Look, I'm memeing. You can't fucking stop me. Oh, for fuck's sake. That just looks like a green penis, doesn't it? Hey, look, I turned myself into a pickle. I'm Pickle Rick. I'm Pickle Rick. Maybe I should use this though. Pickle Rick. Oh my gosh, look at that. It's Pickle Rick. I don't know. Has he got a nose as well or something? I'm guessing it's this one. I'm guessing that kind of looks like Pickle Rick anyway. He's got to have a mouth as well, right? I'm Pickle Rick. I can't remember what the joke is from Pickle Rick now. That he turned himself into a pickle, right? Then it's like, I'm Pickle Rick. Turn myself into a pickle. You suck, Morty. You suck. Right. So, oh, I'm Nipple Rick. I'm Nipple Rick. Nipple Rick. Let's draw it over here. Look. Look! It's Pickle Rick and Nipple Rick! I'm Nipple Rick! Okay, fuck off, you cunts.